Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever or wherever you are watching from me. It's 5:46 a.m. here in the Eastern Time Zone of the United States. It's Thursday, the 16th of October, 2025, and today we're going to finish the book of Ruth. We're going to read the fourth chapter. It's a small book. We've read all about Ruth and how she got here. We've met Boaz, and we've seen this situation where Ruth kind of put herself at his feet to ask him to redeem her. Today, we're going to read about how all that unfolds. The last part of chapter 3 that we read the last session was where Naomi said, "Hey, Ruth, just sit here because Boaz he won't rest until he takes care of this matter." So there's this thing where Boaz is a close relative, but there's one guy who is a closer relative to Naomi's ex-husband, her husband who's died, and Boaz has to ask him first, and he's already told Ruth that if he won't redeem you, I will redeem you. So we're going to watch how that folds out. All right, so reading from the New King James translation, and this is Ruth 4. Now Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there, and behold, the close relative of whom Boaz had spoken came by. So Boaz said, "Come aside, friend, sit down here." So he came aside and sat down, and he took 10 men of the elders of the city, and he said, "Sit down here." So they sat down. Then he said to the close relative Naomi, who's come back from the country of Moab, sold the piece of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech. And I thought to inform you, saying, "Buy it back in the presence of the inhabitants of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if you will not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know, for there's no one but you to redeem it, and I am next after you." And he said, "I'll redeem it." Then Boaz said, "On the day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you must also buy it from Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance." And the close relative said, "I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I ruin my own inheritance. You redeem my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it." Now this was the custom in the former times in Israel concerning redeeming and exchanging. To confirm anything, one man took off his sandal and gave it to the other, and this was a confirmation in Israel. Therefore, the close relative said to Boaz, "Buy it for yourself." So he took off his sandal, and Boaz said to the elders and all the people, "You are witnesses this day that I've bought all that was Elimelech's, and that all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's from the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth, the Moabitess, the widow of Mahlon, I've acquired as my wife, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brethren and from his position at the gate. You are witnesses this day." And all the people who were at the gate and the elders said, "We are witnesses. The Lord make the woman who is coming into your house like Rachel and Leah, the two who built the house of Israel. And may you prosper in Ephrathah and be famous in Bethlehem. May your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tabor bore Judah, because of the offspring which the Lord will give you from this young woman." So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife, and he went in to her. The Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. Then the women said to Naomi, "Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a close relative, and may his name be famous in Israel. And may he be to you a restorer of life and nourisher of your old age, for your daughter-in-law, who loves you, who is better for you than 7 sons, has borne him." Then Naomi took the child and laid him on her bosom and became a nurse to him. Also the neighbor women gave him a name, saying, "There is a son born to Naomi," and they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now this is the genealogy of Perez. Perez begot Hezron. Hezron begot Ram. Ram begot Amminadab. Aminadab begot Nahshon. Nahshon begot Salmon. Salmon begot Boaz. Boaz begot Obed. Obed begot Jesse. And Jesse begot David. All right, so lots going on there. Just to kind of summarize it, Boaz had to go to this closer relative and see if he would redeem. It's very interesting to me, the contrast between the two, and I'm actually going to talk about that more. And I see that as kind of a challenge to us, but I'll talk about that in a sec. And so you see this relative, and we still don't know his name. He's a closer relative. Boaz goes out to the city gate, which is a place where a lot of things would be done if they were going to be done in public. So there would be plenty of witness. He goes out there, he sees this close relative, and he grabs him, says, hey, come over and sit down. He grabs 10 elders. So that's important because whatever this transaction is, it needs witnesses to confirm it. And that's the way they would have done it in those days. He says, hey, there's this land. Naomi's back, and she has this land that needs to be redeemed. And the guy says, hey, I'll redeem it. But when Boaz said, but wait, there's more, then he said, hey, you also get Ruth with this deal. And since you redeem that, you really need to redeem her, since her husband is our dead relative. And so basically what he's saying is, if you redeem this, if you buy this land from Naomi, then you also have to take Ruth as your wife. And this guy wasn't willing to do that. He flipped what his decision was and says, hey, I can't do that because it might ruin what I already have. Then he does this weird thing where he takes off his sandal. It's a kind of a public legal agreement thing that they did back then. And he gives his sandal to Boaz. And Boaz confirms everything that happened in front of the witnesses. The witnesses say, hey, we're witnesses. And then they bless them. They say, hey, may your house be plentiful. And they go through all this history of Israel and different things that have happened. It's important that you remember just how messy true history was. When they're talking about these blessings, these people they say, may your house be like Perez who Tamar bore Judah. Well, read about Tamar and Judah back in Genesis. It's a mess. I've talked about it before. If I can remember, I'll go find the exact episode, but that's a mess. If you don't know what a mess it is, go read it. It's a very interesting story. And then it says that Boaz took Ruth for a wife, and that they had started having kids. So they had a son. And when they had a son, everybody was just elated, and the women of the village were elated because Naomi now had somebody to carry on that lineage. And Naomi's elated, and she takes him, and basically she's being a great grandma, a great grandmother, not a great grandma like as in grandma, great grandma, but a great as in good grandma, and takes him. And these people name him Obed, this son, and that name means servant or worshiper, which is a really big deal and a really cool thing. And then it says that Obed is the father of Jesse, and Jesse is the father of David. Who's that David? That's King David, the first king of Israel. So in a time when there were just judges, when Israel was all over the map, up and down, and they didn't know what they were doing. They weren't following God. They were following God. Only 2 generations later, Obed, this son of Ruth, the Moabite, who's a Gentile, becomes the grandfather of the first king of Israel, and someone who is very historically relevant to the Jewish people. And then it goes through this genealogy that starts at Perez and goes all the way down to David. So some of the other things we see in here, we certainly see there's this picture of grace through Boaz. We see a weird picture with this unnamed relative where he has the ability to redeem, seemingly, but he's unwilling to do it. It's almost, he can kind of be seen as a picture or a type of the law, that it has the appearance of something that can redeem you, but it can't redeem you at all. It's unable to save. And in Boaz, we've already said he is a type of Christ. He's this type of selfless love that would make that sacrifice to save somebody else, like he did Ruth. And that's certainly what Christ has done for us. We see this, the marriage that they have is kind of a type, a shadow looking ahead to, so Boaz, who's in Israel, the promise, marries a Gentile who's outside the promise. Well, in the New Testament, we find that the church is called the bride of Christ. So the church, Gentiles like you and me, unless you're Jewish, and if you're a follower of Christ, then you're with me anyway, and I'm with you. But it's Christ, it's this picture of Christ's union to the church. And you see this whole picture playing out through the book of Ruth about God's providence and how he uses very unlikely people in very unlikely situations to do something great. We talked about Romans 8:28 and how it says that God, in all things, God works for the good of those who love him and called to his service. That's God's providence working no matter how it looks in the immediate. And then we see this genealogy. And if you take that genealogy further, if you go look in Matthew 1 and the first part of it, you see Matthew recording the genealogy from Abraham all the way to Jesus. And Ruth is actually named in that genealogy. So that's kind of a geek thing. My challenge as we finish the book of Ruth, my challenge is really something that I've been thinking about this morning heavy, about this unnamed relative versus Boaz. Now, I've already said that the unnamed relative is kind of a type of the law. Boaz is kind of a type of Jesus. But I think that when we read stuff like this, I think God is reading us with his word too and saying, so what's it going to be? Like, what's it going to be, David? Or are you, when I call you to do something, are you going to be like that unnamed relative and be selfish and only look out for your self-interest? If God gives me a challenge, am I gonna look and go, that's going to be really inconvenient, or that's going to cost me something, or that could cause me problems? Or am I going to be like Boaz? Am I going to be like Boaz and be selfless and listen to God's call and know that no matter what it costs me, what I have in eternity is so much bigger than anything could cost me on this earth, that I need to be willing to do anything that God asks. And that's a challenge that I ask myself every day, but it really made me ask it today. So my prayer is that for you and for me, that if we come up with a situation, or when we come up with a situation where God has put us in a place and he's directing us to do something, that we'll be like Boaz, not like the unnamed relative. There's a reason the guy's unnamed. It's because now he's irrelevant, because he made the wrong choice. He didn't follow through. He didn't redeem. He didn't do what he could do. So let's be like Boaz. God, thank you for your word. God, thank you for the way it reads us. It certainly reads me. God, we want to be like Boaz. We want to be like Christ. Please mold us more and more into your image every day, and give us the courage to let it happen. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks for your time this morning, whenever it is for you. We'll be back tomorrow, Friday for me, and we're going to start in